The stars looked different from the bridge of the New Horizon. Captain Jake Morrison stood at the observation deck, watching the swirling colors of the Kepler 442 system. This was their 15th jump into unexplored space, and so far they had found nothing but empty worlds and silent planets. "Captain, we're picking up something strange on the sensors," called out Lieutenant Ben Parker from his station. His voice carried a note of excitement that made everyone on the bridge turn toward him. Jake walked over to the sensor station. "What kind of strange?" "Multiple energy signatures, sir. They don't match any known patterns, and they're big." "Really?" "Big." Dr. Linda Hayes looked up from her research console. She was the ship's chief scientist, and her job was to study any new life forms they might encounter. "Could it be natural phenomena? Maybe some kind of stellar activity?" Ben shook his head. "No, ma'am. These readings are too organized, too deliberate. I think we're looking at artificial constructs." Jake felt his heart rate increase. After years of searching, had they finally found evidence of other intelligent life? "Put it on the main screen." The view screen flickered to life, showing a vast field of space dotted with massive structures. They were unlike anything humans had ever built. The ships, if that's what they were, looked more like floating cities than military vessels. Their hulls were smooth and curved, decorated with patterns that seemed to shift and flow like liquid metal. "My God," whispered Dr. Hayes. "They're beautiful." "They're also heading straight for us," Ben added, his voice less excited now. Jake moved to his captain's chair. "How many ships are we talking about?" 12 large vessels, sir. Each one is at least 3 times the size of the New Horizon." Jake's mind raced. First contact with an alien species was something humanity had prepared for, but it was still overwhelming to actually experience it. Open a channel on all frequencies. "Let's try to establish communication." "The communications officer, Sarah." Kim worked at her console. "Channel open, sir." Jake took a deep breath. This moment would be remembered in history books. "This is Captain Jake Morrison of the human vessel New Horizon. We come in peace and wish to establish friendly contact." For several minutes, there was no response. The alien ships continued their approach, but they didn't seem aggressive. They moved slowly and deliberately as if they were being careful. Not to frighten the humans, finally the speakers crackled to life. The voice that emerged was strange but clearly artificial, as if it was being translated by some kind of machine. "Greetings, Vessel New Horizon. I am Ambassador Kilmuth of the Galactic Confederation. We welcome you to this region of space. Please prepare to receive our diplomatic shuttle." Jake exchanged glances with his crew. "Galactic Confederation? That sounds like they represent multiple species." Dr. Hayes was already pulling up her xenobiology protocols. "This is incredible, Captain. We're not just meeting one alien species. We might be meeting representatives of many. Ambassador Kilmuth, this is Captain Morrison. We would be honored to receive your shuttle. We'll prepare our docking bay." The alien shuttle that approached the New Horizon was as elegant as the larger ships. It seemed to glide through space without any visible propulsion system. As it docked, Jake gathered his senior staff in the main conference room. "Remember, we're representing all of humanity here," he told them. "Be respectful, be curious, but be careful. We don't know anything about their culture or intentions." The airlock opened and Ambassador Kilmuth entered. Jake had expected something humanoid, but the alien was unlike anything he had imagined. Kilmuth stood about 7 feet tall, with a body that seemed to be a cross between a bird and a mammal. His skin had a feathered texture, and his large eyes were positioned on the sides of his head, giving him an almost prey-like appearance. "Captain Morrison," Kilmuth said, his translated voice warm and friendly, "it is a pleasure to meet you. I must say, your species is quite interesting to look at." Jake smiled. "The feeling is mutual, Ambassador. We're honored to make contact with your confederation." Kilmuth gestured to the conference table. "May we sit? I have much to discuss with you." As they settled around the table, Kilmuth explained the basics of the Galactic Confederation. It was an alliance of 47 different species, spread across thousands of star systems. They had been exploring and colonizing space for over 2,000 years. Most species joined the Confederation peacefully, Kilmuth explained. We offer protection, trade opportunities, and shared technology. In return, member species contribute to the common good of the galaxy. Dr. Hayes leaned forward. This is fascinating. How do you maintain peace between so many different species? We have evolved beyond the need for conflict, Kilmuth replied, his large eyes blinking slowly. Most Confederation species gave up warfare centuries ago. We believe that cooperation is far more effective than competition. Jake nodded, but something in the alien's tone made him curious. What about species that don't want to join? Or those that are naturally aggressive? Kilmuth's feathers seemed to ruffle slightly. That is ... rare. Most intelligent species realize that peace is preferable to conflict. Those few that remain aggressive are usually persuaded to change their ways. Persuaded how? Jake asked. Through demonstration of our superior numbers and technology, a show of force, you might say. But we rarely need to actually fight. Most species see reason quickly. Dr. Hayes pulled up some data on her tablet. Ambassador, I'd like to learn more about your species and the others in the Confederation. Are you primarily herbivorous? Indeed. My people, the Zephyrians, consume only plant matter. Most Confederation species are similar. We find the concept of consuming other living beings to be quite disturbing. Jake felt a chill run down his spine. Ambassador, I should probably mention that humans are omnivorous. We eat both plants and animals. Kilmuth's large eyes widened. You consume other creatures? Living beings? Well, not living exactly. We hunt and farm animals for food. It's been part of our evolution for millions of years. The alien ambassador was quiet for a long moment. I see, that is ... unusual. Most species in the Confederation evolved past such primitive behaviors long ago. Dr. Hayes sensed the tension and tried to change the subject. Perhaps we could discuss trade opportunities? Or cultural exchange programs? Yes, of course, Kilmuth agreed, but his manner seemed cooler now. Tell me, Captain Morrison does. Your species still engage in warfare? Jake hesitated. This was a sensitive topic. We've had conflicts in our past, but we've been working toward peace. We haven't had a major war in over a century. But you still maintain military forces? Yes, for defense and peacekeeping purposes. Kilmuth's feathers ruffled again. Defense? Against what? Surely an intelligent species would have evolved beyond the need for SUCH primitive institutions. Jake was beginning to feel defensive. Ambassador, with respect, we've learned that it's better to be prepared for conflict while working for peace. We call it peace through strength. Strength, Kilmuth repeated the word as if it tasted bad. You speak of strength as if it were a virtue. Do you engage in combat for entertainment? We have sports that simulate combat, yes. Boxing, martial arts, war games, they're popular on Earth. The ambassador stood up suddenly. War games? You practice warfare for fun? Dr. Hayes tried to intervene. Ambassador, please understand that these activities are heavily regulated. They're not actual combat. No one gets seriously hurt. But you train your people to fight? To kill? Jake's patience was wearing thin. Ambassador, every species has the right to defend itself. We don't go looking for fights, but we're prepared if someone brings one to us. Kilmuth paced around the room, his large eyes darting nervously. This is most disturbing. The Confederation has protocols for dealing with aggressive species, but you seem to be something else entirely. You're intelligent enough for space travel, but you still cling to these primitive behaviors. Primitive? Jake stood up, his voice hardening. There's nothing primitive about being prepared to defend your home and your people. Captain, Dr. Hayes warned quietly, but Jake continued. Ambassador, we've been peaceful in our approach to you. We've shown you respect and courtesy, but don't mistake that for weakness. Humans have survived and thrived because we learned to adapt to threats. Kilmuth stopped pacing and stared at Jake. Are you threatening me, Captain? I'm explaining to you that while we prefer peace, We're not helpless if someone decides to take that choice away from us. The alien ambassador activated a communication device. This is Ambassador Kilmuth to the fleet. I need to speak with Admiral Zexthara immediately. As Kilmuth spoke rapidly in his own language, Jake realized that this first contact was not going as anyone had hoped. The cultural gap between humans and the Confederation seemed wider than they had anticipated. When Kilmuth finished his call, he turned back to Jake. Captain Morrison, I'm afraid this conversation has raised some concerns. The Confederation Council will need to review your species' suitability for membership. And if we're not suitable? Kilmuth's large eyes blinked slowly. Then we will need to discuss other options. For the safety of the galaxy, you understand. Jake felt a cold knot forming in his stomach. Ambassador, I think there's been a misunderstanding. Perhaps, Kilmuth replied. But the Confederation has dealt. The emergency meeting in the White House Situation Room began at 3 a.m. President Maria Santos sat at the head of the table, her face grim as she read the translated message from the Galactic Confederation. Around her, the most powerful people in the government waited for her response. Let me make sure I understand this correctly, President Santos said, looking up from the alien document. They want us to surrender our military, disarm our entire planet, and submit to their authority. And if we refuse, they'll force us to comply. General Rick Patterson, head of Earth's Strategic Defense Command, nodded. That's the basic message, Madam President. They're calling it a pacification ultimatum. We have 72 hours to respond. Fleet Admiral Lisa Chun spoke up from her seat across the table. The New Horizon reported that the alien ambassador seemed genuinely shocked by our military capabilities. They apparently expected us to be more like their other member species. Which are what, exactly? Asked Secretary of Defense Robert Clark. Dr. Linda Hayes, who had returned to Earth aboard the New Horizon, pulled up her notes. Based on my observations, the Confederation species are primarily herbivorous. They evolved from prey animals. Ambassador Kilmuth's people look like a cross between birds and mammals, but they have prey characteristics. Large eyes on the sides of their heads, nervous behavior, flight responses to threats. President Santos leaned back in her chair. So we're dealing with a galaxy full of sheep who think they can tell the wolves what to do. That's probably not far from the truth, Dr. Hayes agreed. They seem to have evolved beyond warfare through necessity, not choice. They never developed the predatory instincts that humans have. General Patterson stood up and moved to the large display screen. Madam President, there's something else you need to know, something we've kept classified until now. The screen showed a detailed map of Earth's orbital defenses. But these weren't the civilian space stations that other countries knew about. These were military installations hidden from public view. For the past 50 years, we've been preparing for exactly this scenario, Patterson continued. Not specifically alien contact, but the possibility of a threat from space. We have weapons platforms, stealth ships, and defense systems that the public has never seen. President Santos studied the display. How many ships do we have? Active fleet consists of 237 vessels, ranging from small fighters to heavy battleships, all equipped with stealth technology and armed with both energy weapons and kinetic projectiles. Admiral Chun added, we also have manufacturing facilities on the Moon and Mars that can produce more ships if needed. The aliens don't know about any of this. What about their numbers? President Santos asked. Intelligence suggests they have over 3,000 ships in their navy, Patterson replied. But here's the thing. Our analysis of their vessel designs suggests they're not built for actual combat. They're designed for show, for intimidation. Their hulls are decorative, their weapons are primarily defensive, Dr. Hayes nodded. That matches what I observed. Ambassador Kilmuth mentioned that most species surrender after a show of force. They've never had to fight a real war. Meanwhile, in the depths of space, Admiral Zexthara was having his own meeting aboard the Confederation flagship Harmony. Of stars, the alien admiral was tall and insect-like, with multiple arms and compound eyes that reflected the bridge lighting. Ambassador Kilmuth, explain to me again why you believe these humans pose a threat. Zexthara said, his translated voice carrying irritation. Kilmuth shifted nervously. Admiral, they spoke of warfare as if it were normal. They have military forces, they practice combat for entertainment, and they consume other living beings. Most disturbing of all, their leader spoke of strength as if it were a virtue. Counselor Vixandra, a reptilian creature with scales that changed color based on her mood, spoke from the communication screen. Admiral, the Council has reviewed the reports. We believe a standard pacification mission will be sufficient. These humans appear to be stuck in a primitive stage of development. How many ships should I deploy? Zexthara asked. 200 should be more than enough, Vexandra replied. Remember, we're not going to war. We're conducting a police action. The humans will surrender as soon as they see our fleet. Zexthara wasn't entirely convinced. What if they don't surrender? Then we'll have to teach them about the benefits of peace, Vexandra said, her scales shifting to a darker color. The Confederation has dealt with aggressive species before. We have protocols. Back on Earth, President Santos was reading reports from intelligence agencies around the world. The aliens had been monitoring human communications and seemed to be confused by what they were hearing. They intercepted our military communications, said CIA Director Corinne Brown. But they don't understand our terminology. They think war games are actual religious ceremonies. They believe our military exercises are some kind of primitive dance. That could work in our favor, General Patterson said. If they underestimate, U.S. will have the element of surprise. President Santos made her decision. General, I want you to activate all our hidden defenses. Admiral Chun, prepare the fleet for combat. But keep everything concealed until I give the order. What about the ultimatum? Asked Secretary Clark. We're going to reject it, but I want to address the nation first. The people have a right to know what we're facing. The presidential address was broadcast worldwide 3 hours later. President Santos stood behind the podium in the Oval Office, her voice calm but firm. My fellow Americans and citizens of the world, I come to you tonight with news that will change everything we thought we knew about our place in the universe. We are not alone. We have made contact with an alien civilization called the Galactic Confederation. She paused, letting the weight of her words sink in before continuing. Unfortunately, this first contact has not gone as we hoped. The Confederation has demanded that we surrender our military forces and submit to their authority. They view our defensive capabilities as primitive and threatening. They have given us 72 hours to comply, or they will force us to submit. The President's voice grew stronger. I want to be clear about something. Humanity has always been a peaceful species, but we have never been a weak one. We have survived ice ages, plagues, and wars because we learned to adapt and defend ourselves. We will not surrender our freedom to aliens who mistake our desire for peace as a sign of weakness. The broadcast continued for another 10 minutes, explaining the situation and calling for unity. When it ended, the world was buzzing with activity. Military bases around the globe went to high alert. Hidden weapons systems powered up for the first time in decades. In space, the Confederation fleet was preparing for what they expected to be a simple police action. Admiral Zexthara stood on his bridge, watching the blue-green planet called Earth grow larger on the view screen. Admiral, we're receiving a response to our ultimatum, reported his communications officer, a slug-like creature with tentacles. For arms, put it on the main screen. President Santos appeared on the screen, her expression serious but unafraid. Admiral Zexthara, I am President Maria Santos of the United Earth Government. I have received your ultimatum, and I have a response. The alien admiral leaned forward, expecting to hear words of surrender. The people of Earth reject your demands completely. We have done nothing to threaten you or your confederation. We offered friendship and received threats in return. If you want a war, you'll have one. Admiral Zexthara was stunned. In his 300 years of service, no species had ever rejected a Confederation ultimatum. President Santos, I don't think you understand the situation. We have thousands of ships. You are one small planet. Admiral, I don't think you understand the situation. You're dealing with humans. We've been preparing for this fight longer than you've been alive. The transmission ended, leaving the alien admiral staring at a blank screen. Around him, his crew looked confused and frightened. They had never encountered a species that chose to fight rather than surrender. Sir, what are your orders? Asked his second dash in dash command.zex single quotes as they looked at the planet ahead of them. Somewhere down there, the humans were preparing for war. Signal the fleet. We proceed with the pacification mission, but increase our defensive posture. I have a feeling this isn't going to be as easy as the Council thinks. As the Confederation fleet moved toward Earth, both sides prepared for a conflict that would change the galaxy forever. The aliens expected a quick surrender from a primitive species. The humans were ready to show them what happened when you threaten the most dangerous predators in the universe. The war was about to begin, and neither side fully understood what they were about to face. But the humans had one advantage that the Confederation couldn't comprehend. They had been born for this fight. The Confederation fleet arrived at the edge of Earth's solar system like a parade of giants. 200 massive ships moved in perfect formation, their hulls gleaming with decorative patterns that caught the light from the distant sun. Admiral Zexthara stood on the bridge of his flagship, watching the blue planet grow larger on his screens. Admiral, we're in position, reported his navigation officer. All ships are ready for the pacification procedure, Zexthara nodded. Begin the standard protocol. Scan for their military vessels and demand immediate surrender. The sensor operator, a creature that looked like a large purple mushroom with multiple eye stalks, worked at his console. Sir, I'm not detecting any ships around the planet. No orbital defenses, no military formations. It's like they're not even trying to resist. Good, Zexthara said. Perhaps they've come to their senses. Open a channel to the planet. What the aliens didn't know was that they were already being watched. 3 miles away, completely invisible to Confederation sensors, Commander Alex Rivera floated in the stealth destroyer Silent Hunter. The ship was painted matte black and covered with technology that bent light around it, making it impossible to see. Commander, we're recording everything, whispered Lieutenant Kelly Brooks. From the sensor station, their ship designs are exactly what our intelligence predicted. All show, no substance. Rivera studied the alien formation through his periscope. Look at how they're arranged. Perfect lines, equal spacing. They're not expecting a fight. They're putting on a show. Behind them, hidden in the asteroid belt, 50 more human ships waited in silence. Each one was invisible to alien sensors. Each one armed with weapons the Confederation had never seen before, on the planet below. Dr. Paul Carter sat in a secure bunker beneath the Pentagon, analyzing the alien ships through telescopes and satellites. He was a military strategist who had spent years studying alien psychology based on the first contact reports. General Patterson, look at this, Carter said, pointing to his screen. See how their ships are built? Those hull patterns aren't just decorative. They're designed to look impressive, to make other species feel small and weak. General Patterson looked at the data. What does that tell us about them? It tells us they've never fought anyone who wasn't already afraid of them. Their entire military doctrine is based on intimidation, not combat. They're used to species that surrender at the first sign of superior numbers. Meanwhile, Admiral Zexthara was growing impatient. Why aren't they responding to our communications? Sir, we're receiving a signal from the planet. The communications. Officer reported. President Santos appeared on the screen, her face calm and confident. Admiral, welcome to our solar system. I trust you've had a pleasant journey. President Santos, this is your final opportunity to surrender. We have 200 ships. You have shown us no military presence. Submit now, and we will be merciful. Admiral, we appreciate your concern, but we're not interested in surrendering. However, we would like to demonstrate something to you. Before Zexthara could respond, alarms began blaring throughout the Confederation fleet. The sensor operator's eye stalks were moving frantically. "Admiral, we're detecting massive energy signatures. They're coming from everywhere." Around the alien fleet, human ships began to decloak. They appeared like ghosts materializing from empty space, surrounding the Confederation vessels in a perfect sphere. The aliens found themselves outnumbered and outmaneuvered without even knowing they were in danger. "Impossible," Zexthara breathed. "Where did they come from?" Commander Rivera's voice came through the alien communication system. "Admiral, this is Commander Alex Rivera of the Earth Defense Force. You are surrounded. I suggest you listen very carefully to what our president has to say." President Santos smiled on the screen. "Admiral, meet the human military. The real one, not the civilian ships you've been watching. We've been preparing for this moment for 50 years. Dr. Carter's analysis had been correct. The alien ships were designed for show, not for battle. Their weapons were primarily defensive, meant to disable rather than destroy. Their shields were powerful, but designed to stop energy weapons, not the kinetic projectiles that humans preferred. Lieutenant Colonel Nina Walsh led the first boarding party that would change everything. Her team of 12 Marines approached a Confederation cruiser in a small stealth shuttle. The aliens didn't even know they were coming. "Remember, we're here to gather intelligence, not to cause casualties," Walsh told her team. "These beings have never experienced real combat. They're going to be terrified." The human boarding party cut through the alien hull like it was made of paper. The Confederation ship's security systems were designed to detect energy weapons and conventional explosives, not the plasma cutters and magnetic charges that humans used. Inside the alien ship, the crew was in complete panic. They had never seen anything like the human Marines. The humans moved with precision and purpose, their black armor making them look like creatures from a nightmare. "Please don't hurt us," begged the alien security chief, a bird-like creature with bright blue feathers. "We surrender." "We'll do anything you want," Walsh looked at the terrified alien. "We're not here to hurt you. We just need to understand your technology." The boarding party discovered that the Confederation ships were marvels of engineering, but they were built for exploration and transport, not warfare. Their computers contained detailed information about every species in the galaxy, their weaknesses, their fears, their surrender protocols. "Colonel Walsh to command," she reported through her radio. "You're not going to believe what we've found. They have files on over 3,000 species, and every single one of them surrendered without a fight." Back on the Silent Hunter, Commander Rivera was analyzing the alien formation. "They're not even trying to defend themselves. Look at their positioning. They're still in parade formation." Admiral Zextara was experiencing something he had never felt before: fear. His species had evolved from small creatures that survived by hiding from predators. Now, faced with actual predators, his instincts were screaming at him to run. "Admiral, what are your orders?" Asked his second dash in dash command.zex single quotes at DHRA looked at the human ships surrounding his fleet. They were smaller than his vessels, but something about them was different. They moved like living things, like hunters stalking prey. "Signal the fleet," he said finally. "Prepare for retreat." "Sir, we can't retreat. The Council expects us to complete the pacification mission. The Council has never seen anything like this," Sexthera replied. "These humans are not like other species. They're not afraid of us." Commander Rivera watched the alien ships begin to move out of formation. "Admiral Zexthara, I wouldn't recommend trying to run. You're surrounded, and our ships are faster than yours." To demonstrate his point, Rivera ordered a single human destroyer to perform a high-speed maneuver around the entire alien fleet. The ship moved so fast that it seemed to be in multiple places at once, its stealth technology making it flicker in and out of visibility. The alien crews watched in horror as the human ship danced between their vessels, clearly showing that it could have attacked any of them at any time. This was not the behavior of a peaceful species. This was the behavior of a predator playing with its prey. "Admiral," Rivera continued, "we're going to make you an offer. You can return to your Confederation and tell them what you've seen here. Tell them that humans are not like other species. Tell them that we don't want to fight, but we're very, very good at it. Zexthara's compound eyes reflected the lights of the human ships surrounding him. And if we refuse? Then we'll show you what human warfare really looks like. Dr. Carter was monitoring the entire encounter from his bunker. General, they're about to break. Look at their formation. They're clustering together like a herd of frightened animals. Should we let them go? Patterson asked. Not yet. They need to understand what they're dealing with. Order the fleet to perform a hunting pattern around them. The human ships began to move in a coordinated dance around the alien fleet. It was a pattern that every predator species understood, the circling behavior of hunters selecting their prey. The aliens had never seen anything like it because no Confederation species had ever been hunters. Admiral, one of his officers cried out, "They're hunting us!" Zexthara made a decision that would change galactic history. Signal retreat, full speed back to Confederation space. Sir, we can't just run away. Look around you, Zexthara said, his voice shaking. We are prey animals surrounded by predators. We have to warn the Confederation about what these humans really are. Commander Rivera watched as the alien fleet began to retreat. Admiral, you're making a wise choice. But remember, we didn't start this fight. You came to our home and threatened. U.S. As the Confederation ships fled the solar system, the human fleet remained in position, ready for whatever came next. The aliens had learned something that would terrify the entire galaxy. Humanity was not just another species to be pacified. They were the apex predators of the universe, and they had been sleeping until now. The first battle was over, but the war was just beginning. The Confederation would return with more ships, more weapons, and more determination. But they would also return with something they had never experienced before: fear of their enemy. 3 weeks after the first encounter at Earth, Captain Steve Miller stood on the bridge of the battleship Predator's Edge, watching his tactical display. The ship was deep in Confederation space, hunting supply convoys that kept the alien fleet operational. His crew had been tracking a large transport group for 2 days. Captain, we found them, reported Lieutenant Sam Davis from the sensor station. 12 cargo ships with 4 escorts heading for the Centauri supply depot. Miller studied the convoy formation. The aliens still traveled in neat, organized patterns that made them easy targets. Are they carrying weapons or supplies? Mostly. Food and medical supplies, sir. Nothing military. Miller nodded. The humans had made a decision early in the war. They would target military assets and supply lines, but they would avoid unnecessary casualties. It was a concept the Confederation couldn't understand. Signal the convoy, Miller ordered. Standard message. The communication went out on all frequencies. Confederation vessels. This is Captain Steve Miller of the Earth Defense Force. Abandon your ships immediately. You have 5 minutes to evacuate to your escape pods before we disable your vessels. On the lead Confederation transport, Captain Veltara received the human message with growing panic. She was a tall, graceful creature that looked like a cross between a deer and an octopus, with large eyes that showed her fear clearly. Captain, what should we do? Asked her navigation officer. Should we call for help? Veltara had read the reports from Admiral Zexthara's encounter at Earth. The humans were unlike any species the Confederation had ever faced. They were efficient, deadly, and somehow they kept appearing where they weren't expected. Signal the fleet, she said. All hands abandon ship. The humans mean what they say. Captain Miller watched as small escape pods began launching from the alien ships. Sir, they're evacuating without resistance, Davis reported. Good, as soon as the pods are clear, disable their engines and cargo holds. Leave their life support intact. The human attack was swift and precise. Missiles fired from the Predator's Edge struck exactly where they were supposed to, disabling the alien ships without destroying them. Within minutes, 12 Confederation transports were floating dead in space, their crews safe in escape pods. Captain, we're picking up a distress signal from the convoy, the communications officer reported. They're calling for Admiral Zexthara, Miller smiled grimly. Let them call. By the time help arrives, we'll be long gone. The Predator's edge vanished into the darkness between stars, leaving behind another disabled convoy and a growing legend. The humans were everywhere and nowhere, striking without warning and disappearing before the Confederation could respond. Meanwhile, Major Kate Johnson was leading a different kind of mission. Her Marine unit had captured a Confederation listening post on the edge of their territory. Unlike the convoy raids, this was an information-gathering operation. "Major, we've accessed their communication networks," reported Sergeant Tony Clark, the unit's technical specialist. "You need to see this." Johnson looked at the alien computer display. The text was translated automatically, but the content was disturbing. The Confederation was planning a massive counterattack against Earth, using over 1,000 ships from across their territory. "They're pulling fleets from everywhere," Clark continued. "Border patrols, exploration vessels, even civilian transports they're converting into warships." Johnson studied the data. "What's their timeline? 6 weeks? Maybe 7? They're having trouble coordinating so many different species and ship types." The Major activated her communication device. "Command, this is Johnson. We've got intelligence on a major Confederation buildup, uploading data now." Back on Earth, General Patterson reviewed the captured intelligence with growing concern. The aliens were learning from their mistakes. They were adapting their tactics and bringing overwhelming numbers to bear. "They're scared," observed Dr. Carter, who was still analyzing alien behavior patterns. "Look at these ship assignments. They're stripping defenses from peaceful systems to build this fleet. That's not rational military planning, that's panic." Admiral Chun studied the fleet composition data. "Over 1,000 ships? Even with our advantages, those are difficult odds." "What kind of advantages do we have?" Patterson asked. "Speed, stealth, and superior tactics," Chun replied. "But most importantly, we understand warfare in a way they don't. They're still thinking like prey animals, overwhelming numbers, defensive formations, intimidation tactics." Patterson made a decision that would define the next phase of the war. "We're not going to wait for them to attack Earth. We're taking the fight to them." The human strategy was unlike anything the Confederation had ever seen. Instead of gathering their fleet for a massive battle, the humans scattered across Confederation space in small, fast groups. Each group had a specific target: supply depots, communication arrays, shipyards, and command centers. Captain Miller's battleship group struck the main fleet assembly point at Rigel 7. They arrived while the alien ships were still being organized, catching them completely off guard. "Multiple targets, scattered formation," Miller announced to his crew. "Remember, we hit fast and we hit hard, and then we get out." The human ships dove into the alien formation like wolves attacking a flock of sheep. Their weapons were precise and devastating. Where alien ships used energy beams that could be blocked by shields, humans used kinetic projectiles that punched through hull armor like it was paper. Admiral Zexthara watched in horror from his command ship as human vessels tore through his carefully assembled fleet. The aliens had superior numbers, but they couldn't coordinate their response. Every time they tried to form a defensive line, the humans would attack from a different direction. "Admiral, we've lost contact with the 3rd Squadron," reported his communications officer. "The humans destroyed their command ship." "How many ships have we lost?" Zexthara asked. 47 destroyed, 83 disabled. "The humans are targeting our command vessels and supply ships specifically." Zexthara realized what the humans were doing. They weren't trying to destroy his entire fleet. They were cutting off his ability to command and supply his forces. It was a strategy that no Confederation species had ever used. "Signal retreat," he ordered. "All ships fall back to the secondary assembly point." But the humans had anticipated this move. Captain Rivero's stealth destroyers were already waiting at the secondary position. When the retreating alien fleet arrived, they found themselves under attack again. Major Johnson's Marines were conducting their own type of warfare on the ground. They had captured several Confederation command posts and were using them to intercept enemy communications. Major, we're getting real-time intelligence on their fleet movements, Sergeant Clark reported. They're completely panicked. Listen to this. He played a recorded alien communication. Even through the translation system, the fear in the alien commander's voice was clear. Unknown human ships appearing everywhere. We cannot track them. We cannot fight them. Request immediate reinforcements. Johnson shook her head. They still don't understand what they're fighting. They think if they just get enough ships, they can win? What do we do with this information? Clark asked. We use it. Every time they move their fleet, we'll be waiting for them. The pattern continued for weeks. The Confederation would gather their ships at a new location, and human forces would appear to attack them. The aliens tried changing their tactics, but nothing worked. The humans seemed to know their plans before they made them. Supreme Chancellor Morthic called an emergency session of the Confederation Council. The large chamber was filled with representatives from dozens of species, all of them frightened and confused. We are facing an enemy unlike any we have encountered, Morthic announced. The humans fight in ways that our military doctrine cannot counter. Councillor Vexandra, her scales shifting through colors that showed her distress, spoke up. Perhaps we should consider negotiating with them. Negotiate? Replied Admiral Zextara, attending the meeting via communication link. You don't negotiate with predators. You either submit to them or you destroy them. But we cannot destroy them, another counselor pointed out. They appear and disappear at will. They know our plans before we make them. They fight without honor or mercy. Dr. Carter would have laughed if he could have heard that conversation. The aliens thought humans fought without honor because they used tactics like ambush and psychological warfare. They couldn't understand that for humans, honor meant protecting your people and winning the war with minimal casualties. The tide of the war had turned completely. What had started as a Confederation attempt to pacify a primitive species had become a nightmare. Human forces were operating freely in Confederation space, striking targets at will and disappearing before anyone could respond. Captain Miller received new orders while resupplying at a hidden human base in the asteroid belt of an uninhabited system. Captain, High Command wants you to take your battle group to the Confederation capital system. Are we going to attack their homeworld? Miller asked. No, sir. We're going to give them a demonstration of what human warfare really looks like. It's time to end this war. As human fleets gathered for the final phase of the conflict, the Confederation was learning a terrible truth. Fleet Admiral Lisa Shun stood on the bridge of her flagship, the battleship Earth's Pride, watching the Confederation capital world grow larger on the viewscreen. Around her, 200 human ships moved in perfect formation toward the heart of the alien government. This was not an invasion force, it was a demonstration of power. Admiral, we're receiving multiple communication requests from the planet, reported Commander Sarah Kim, the fleet communications officer. They want to know our intentions. Chun looked at the beautiful blue and green world ahead of them. It was home to billions of Confederation citizens who had never seen war, never experienced real conflict. Today they would learn what it meant to face humanity. Open a channel to Supreme Chancellor Morthic, Chun ordered. The large viewscreen showed the interior of the Confederation Council chambers. Dozens of alien species were gathered there, their faces showing fear and confusion. At the center sat Morthic, a tall creature that looked like a combination of a tree and an octopus. Fleet Admiral Chun, Morthic said, his translated voice shaking slightly. Why have you brought your fleet to our capital? Chancellor, we're here to end this war, Chun replied calmly. Your forces have been defeated in every engagement. Your supply lines are cut. Your fleets are scattered. It's time to discuss surrender terms. Around the council chamber, alien representatives whispered among themselves. They had received reports of human victories, but seeing the actual fleet outside their homeworld made it real. Counselor Vexandra, her scales now a dull gray color that indicated defeat, spoke up. Admiral, surely we can reach some kind of agreement. The Confederation has resources, technology, knowledge that could benefit both our peoples. You're right, Chun agreed. But first, You need to understand something about humans. We didn't want this war. You forced it on us when you demanded our surrender. On the planet below, General Rick Patterson was meeting with Confederation military leaders in a secure building near the capital. The alien generals looked nothing like their human counterparts. Some were bird-like, others resembled large insects or plants. But they all shared the same expression of defeat. "General Patterson," said Admiral Zextara, who had been recalled to the capital in disgrace, "we must know, how did you defeat us so completely?" "We had superior numbers, better technology in many areas." Patterson studied the alien admiral. "You want to know the truth? You never had a chance. Not because of our weapons or our ships, but because of how we think." He activated a holographic display showing battle formations. "Look at your tactics. Straight lines, equal spacing, predictable movements. You fight like you're in a parade. Not a war." The alien officers watched as the display showed human fleet movements, irregular patterns, unexpected attacks, coordinated strikes from multiple directions. "Your species evolved as prey animals," Patterson continued. "When threatened, your instinct is to group together for protection. Our instinct is to hunt. We developed warfare over thousands of years of fighting each other. You've had peace for so long that you forgot what real conflict looks like." One of the alien generals, a creature that resembled a giant praying mantis, asked, "What happens to us now? Will you destroy our worlds? Enslave our people?" Patterson shook his head. "That's not how humans operate. We're not conquerors, we're protectors. But the galaxy needs to understand that threatening humanity comes with consequences." Meanwhile, President Maria Santos was addressing the human fleet from Earth. Her message was being broadcast to every ship and every crew member involved in the final operation. "To the brave men and women of Earth's defense forces," she began, "you have accomplished something that will be remembered for thousands of years. You have shown the galaxy that humanity cannot be intimidated or conquered. But more importantly, you have shown that we fight not for glory or conquest, but to protect our freedom and our way of life." She paused, looking directly into the camera. "Today we will accept the Confederation's surrender, but we will also offer them something they've never had before: real protection. The galaxy is a dangerous place, and there are threats out there worse than anything we've faced so far." Back on the Confederation capital, negotiations were taking place in the Great Council chambers. The surrender document was simple but comprehensive. "The terms are straightforward," Fleet Admiral Chun explained to the assembled alien leaders. "The Confederation military will be disbanded. All weapons of war will be turned over to human forces. In return, Earth will establish a galactic protection service to defend former Confederation worlds from external threats." Supreme Chancellor Morthick read through the document carefully. "You're asking us to give up our ability to defend ourselves, but you're offering to defend us instead?" "That's correct. But understand this: any world that joins the new system will be under Earth's protection, but they will also follow Earth's rules. No more forcing peaceful species to surrender. No more ultimatums to civilizations that don't want to join your club." Dr. Paul Carter, who had arrived with the diplomatic team, added his analysis. "Chancellor, your confederation was never really a military alliance. It was a mutual protection society for prey species. But what happens when real predators show up? What happens when you encounter a species that actually wants to conquer and destroy?" The alien leader's large eyes blinked slowly as he considered this. "Are you saying there are others like you out there?" "Probably," Carter replied. "The galaxy is huge. Humans might be the first predator species you've encountered, but we won't be the last. The difference is, we choose to protect rather than conquer." Major Kate Johnson was conducting the final military operations on several Confederation worlds. Her Marines were taking control of weapons depots and military installations, but they were doing it with minimal force. "Major, the local garrison is surrendering," reported Sergeant Tony Clark. "They're actually helping us catalog their weapons." Johnson wasn't surprised. The alien military had been designed for show, not for fighting. Most of their soldiers had never seen real combat before the war with humanity. "Treat them with respect," she ordered her troops. "These beings aren't our enemies anymore. They're our responsibility now." The signing ceremony took place in the Great Council chambers with representatives from every major species in the former Confederation present. Supreme Chancellor Morthic signed the surrender document with a stylus that seemed too small for his large, tree-like hands. "By my authority as Supreme Chancellor of the Galactic Confederation, I hereby surrender all military forces to the Earth Defense Command and accept the protection of the Galactic Protection Service." Fleet Admiral Chun signed as the representative of humanity. "On behalf of Earth and all human worlds, we accept your surrender and pledge to protect all peaceful species in this galaxy." As the ceremony concluded, Ambassador Kilmuth, who had been present for the first contact that started the war, approached Admiral Chun. "Admiral, I must ask, why are you being so generous in victory? Your species could rule the entire galaxy if you wanted to." Chin looked at the bird-like alien who had once seemed so confident and threatening. "Ambassador, humans learned something long ago. It's easy to conquer people, but it's much harder to protect them. We'd rather be guardians than rulers." 6. Months later, the new galactic order was taking shape. Human fleets patrolled the space between star systems, protecting trade routes and peaceful worlds. The former Confederation species were adapting to their new reality. They were safe. But they were no longer in charge. General Patterson stood in his new office on the space station that served as headquarters for the Galactic Protection Service. Through his window, he could see ships from dozens of different species coming and going peacefully. "General, we're receiving a distress call from the Outer Rim," reported his aide, Colonel Frank Mitchell. "Unknown ships are attacking a mining colony." Patterson smiled grimly. "Signal the fleet. It looks like we're about to meet our next challenge." As human ships jumped to hyperspace to respond to the crisis, the galaxy learned its most important lesson about humanity. They were not conquerors who fought for glory or territory. They were guardians who fought to protect those who couldn't protect themselves. The war that started with a simple misunderstanding had ended with humanity reluctantly accepting the role they were born for, the galaxy's apex predators. Keeping the peace through strength and watching over a universe full of species that had never learned to defend themselves. The hunt was over, but the watch had just begun. And somewhere in the vast darkness between the stars, other threats were stirring, unaware that the galaxy now had new protectors who would fight to the death to keep the peace.